Hey everybody, it's T from PNT TV and welcome to another edition of our interview sessions. Today I have the pleasure of chatting with Andy Kirshner, who is the writer, director, composer and producer of the upcoming, and wait for it, it's a mouthful, lesbian, political, romantic, comedy, musical, Liberty Secret.
Perfect.
Welcome, Andy, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I know this is not the first time we're attempting to do this, but I hope indeed third time's a charm.
I think we got it.
So, let's begin.
Okay.
Tell us about A Liberty Secret, because, you know, it's been in development for over 7 years. And you've really made a push within the last this year or maybe last year, because I've heard it earlier this year. So tell us what the story is about.
So Liberty's Secret is the story of a young woman who's named Liberty. She is the daughter of a very conservative fundamentalist preacher. She's growing up in some rural part of the United States, and she has aspirations to be a singer. She's really smart, really talented, and very well loved by everyone. One day there is a political campaign, a presidential campaign, that kind of stumbles onto her church. They're looking to kind of court the right wing of their party, and they think that her father's church will be a good outpost. And they kind of stumble on her and realize what potential she has for their campaign. So they kind of make her a figurehead or a symbol of their campaign, kind of wholesome, all-American girl, preacher's daughter, and their candidate is kind of a loser, so they decide they have to deflect attention. So she becomes a national sensation, big star, but to coach her to be a suitable spokesperson for the candidate, they bring in a political consultant who's named Nikki. And Nikki kind of coaches Liberty in all of the subtleties of politics, how to kind of avoid questions and kind of dance around the press. And things are going really, really well for everybody for the campaign. And then Nikki and Liberty fall in love. And this is kind of Liberty's first true love. And it forces her to kind of come to terms with her feelings for another woman, and when their relationship is discovered, it becomes kind of a big deal for the campaign, because they're supposed to be traditional values kind of a campaign, and Liberty is kind of in this position where she has to really make a choice about whether she's going to live her previous life or whether she'll kind of bravely go into a new life with Nikki. And that's basically the story. You have to kind of see it to see what happens. But it's full of dancing and singing and lots of comedy and a lot of political satire too. Kind of satirizing the show business aspects of politics, which if you've been following the U.S. elections lately, it has become kind of merged with reality television. It's kind of almost the same thing at this point. So that's kind of what the story is.
Your lead actresses are Jacelyn Wilk, who plays the lead character Liberty, and Cara Ann Marie, who plays the character of Nikki. Mm-hmm. Could you tell me how you found out about them? Was it just through the open auditions, or did you know about their work before?
Well, I was really fortunate with Jacqueline and Cara, and with a number of other people who collaborated with me on the project. As sometimes happens in movies, you are planning to have one cast, and then for one reason or another, that cast doesn't work out. In our case, as you mentioned, we've been developing the movie for about 6 or 7 years, and took a really long time to kind of raise the money and kind of work through all the details, and it was my first feature film, so there was a lot to figure out. And we had 2 actresses that we thought were going to be the leads, but because it was taking so long to develop the project, they ended up pursuing some other opportunities. actually pretty shortly before we were supposed to shoot. So we were stuck a bit. I hired a casting agent named Janet Pound, a local casting agent here in the Detroit area, and she sent me tapes of some of the actresses that she thought would be good for the roles. So I looked at a bunch of videotapes. I gave them a scene to look at and to try out. And I was really drawn to Jacqueline and Kara, and I thought they would make a really good couple. So I invited them to audition together. And as soon as I saw them together, I thought, okay, this is the couple. They just had this immediate chemistry together. They seemed to really enjoy being together. Were really laughing. And the funny thing was that when they came into the audition, they were dressed in a very similar way, and they also had very similar hair color. So I think it was Jacqueline who immediately came in and said, you know, we decided that we would be great together, and one of us can change our hair color or our hairstyle. I think would be really, really good. So their audition was really, really fabulous, and I invited them to be the stars in the movie, and it was terrific working with them. And I also had a great collaborator in Debbie Williams, who's the choreographer of the project and also kind of a co-director in the dance scenes, and a producer named Heidi Lawson, who found me through the internet, through the auditions that we were casting. So it was very fortunate, the personnel that ended up working on the project.
Where was the film shot?
So we shot the whole film not very far from my house in Michigan, which was extremely convenient. So I teach at the University of Michigan, which is kind of down the street from me in Ann Arbor, about 40 miles outside of Detroit. And we used a lot of facilities at the university, a lot of the buildings. It's a university that was built in the mid-19th century, so there's lots of kind of old architecture and lots of spaces that would have been hard to get as locations kind of anywhere else. I also was able to use a lot of my students, involve them in the project, and some former students, so it kind of became this big community effort. So we shot some on the campus of the university. We found a little church that was about 30 miles away that we used for Liberty's home church. It's kind of way out in the country. Beautiful, beautiful little church. And let's see what else. So we had a nightclub that we found. We had a diner. So we shot one scene in an arboretum outdoors. But it was all kind of within this immediate area, which is great. So we could, everyone could go home at night and sleep, and then come back the next morning and shoot another day. Because as you probably know, shooting a film is really exhausting. You work, 12 to 14-hour days for 6 days in a row. So it was great to be able to come home and walk the dog and hang out with my family every evening.
If you can tell people a little bit about your background, because why you chose a musical for your first film, your first feature, should I say? Mm-hmm. Because there have only been 2 other attempts at a lesbian musical. With Girl Trash All Night Long and Jamie and Jessie Are Not Together. And, although they made a splash, they weren't exactly, the pinnacle of the genre. What makes you think that Liberty Secret will be the film to break through and really bring the genre to our community?
Well, I come to filmmaking kind of through a roundabout way, which is that I am a musician originally by training, a composer. I studied music composition in college, and I also was a practicing jazz musician for many years. And I kind of got into theater by the side door when I started writing music for theatrical productions and for dance. And then I started writing my own work. So I've actually done quite a bit of work for the musical stage, and I'm really interested in the possibilities of storytelling with music. And I'm also interested in just the way that music and dance can express things that are so much more difficult to express with words, or can be expressed so much more concisely and complexly with music and movement. And so that's why I love the genre. I love stage musicals. I love movie musicals. The thing that I don't like so much about traditional musicals, and this has changed more in recent years, but The sort of gender politics of them are typically pretty terrible, or let's say the sexual politics of, traditional musicals. But I love the music, and I love the, I love melody, and I love those musicals, like say the musicals of Frank Lesser, or the Gersh ones that are really rooted in a jazz tradition. That's kind of what I'm coming out of. So my idea with Liberty Secret was really to try to take the kind of classic form of the movie musical, as you might have seen like in the 1950s or the 1960s, and the kind of Technicolor musicals, I guess, and to sort of update that for our own era, where we have a different understanding about what the possibilities are for romantic relationships, and for gender roles. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do with this. I wanted to kind of put, I don't know, maybe it's new wine in old bottles. I guess that's what it is. It's kind of like using that form that everyone is familiar with, but I'm trying to infuse it with some new ideas and kind of expand the horizons of the form. So I hope people enjoy it. I mean, I think it's very entertaining, and the people that I've shown it to so far, I've screened it for friends and family and some of the cast and crew. Everyone has been really excited about it. I think everyone agrees that the performances are really wonderful. Choreography is really great. I hope the music is great. We had a great cinematographer, Trip Green, young cinematographer, who just did a fantastic job. The film is really, really beautiful. Beautiful lighting, beautiful color, beautiful composition. So I think it kind of hits all those marks of what we love about the traditional musicals. And I just hope I hope a lot of people get to see it. I hope your audience and the gay and lesbian community will spread the word about this film, and we'll see what happens.
When last we spoke, I had asked that, after such a long journey of getting Liberty Secret from the page to the screen, can you give me, I know you're in post-production, but can you give me a ballpark time in which you think you'll be ready for the premiere?
Sure. So we are actually going into the recording studio in a couple of days. In fact, I'm copying music in between talking to you, and we'll be recording the last of the music for the movie. We used a couple of demo tracks when we were shooting, and so now we have to replace it with real instruments. So we have some recording to do, and then we are going to do all the sound mixing at the end of December, and we have some color correction to do. So hopefully the whole movie will be finished by the end of December, beginning of January. And then we want to premiere at a film festival. So depending on which film festival we get into, that will sort of determine the date. But what we're aiming for is a kind of early 2016 premiere. And then soon after that, we would make the film available online. Some of that depends on what happens with distribution, whether we get some distribution partners who have a slightly different plan, but it's definitely going to be coming out next year. We want to release it during the election season, since it kind of intersects with reality on that level. We would love to release it sort of at the peak of the primary season, or when everyone's talking about the U.S. election here. Seems like that would be a good time. So I'm so eager to get this movie out, and people have been asking me about it. I feel badly that it's not out already, but it just takes a really long time. But it's coming out, and it's almost done. So I'm so excited to share it with everyone.
And talking about premiering, what would be the ideal place for you to premiere it? And what festivals you would love to get into? Mm-hmm. And as for distribution, what are your thoughts? What have you decided you want to do?
Yeah, well, we're applying to a lot of different film festivals. I mean, we would love to premiere at something, like Frameline or Outfest or one of the LGBT film festivals. We're also, applying to some of the you know, the more household name film festivals like Sundance, although, you know, it's such a competitive festival. So we're kind of applying for lots of different places, but what we're hoping to do is premiere at a film festival and then tour it to various film festivals over the next year. As far as distribution goes, you know, we'll be distributing. Our plan is to use the film festival as sort of our launch to kind of generate some publicity around the film, and then we'd be releasing it online. We'll be having some community screenings. We want to do outreach to LGBT advocacy groups locally and nationally, and who knows, maybe internationally. Would love to screen it at events to kind of support the expansion of civil rights around the world, and we'll just kind of have to see it. Part of it depends on what kind of interest there is from distributors in the film. We have had inquiries from some major distributors, but of course they want to see the film first, which makes sense. So they're waiting, like you, for it to be finished so we can send them a screener and they can see what they think. But one way or another, the film is coming out next year.
So what's next? After you've lived and breathed Liberty Secret in its creation, its production, and now, you know, getting it out there for us to see, what have you given it any thought in terms of what you have next, if anything at all, as your future as a filmmaker?
Yeah, well, first I'm going to take a vacation, and maybe a nap, but I am thinking about other projects. I really love the process of making a film. I love the process of making a musical film. I love the people that I worked with. So I would love to make another film. Part of it depends on how Liberty Secret does. And I have a couple of ideas for films, which I probably should not share just yet. But let's just say that they also involve love and music and dancing and politics, I guess, is always kind of in the mix for me.
I think that one of the main problems that stops the lesbian cinema on a whole from propelling to even greater heights is the fact that, you know, these directors, our directors or directors from who make films for our genre, you know, to do with gay issues or have gay characters in the main roles and stuff like that, if they happen to have hit that magic button for a great successful movie, they, you know, stop right there. They don't follow through. There's no next film, you know. I know there are a couple of directors who are slowly changing that. I think Soul Kiss Films is the premier film production, queer film production that is really pushing that in terms of having multiple features. But what are your thoughts, and do you agree that, you know, filmmakers, gay filmmakers, even though they're independent filmmakers, and it's very hard to make a feature film, especially with the funding not available out there, and what you have to do to try and get a film in, do you think that once you have a successful film that it should be onus to them to make that other feature or be involved in another production or project like that?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that's been really rewarding about making this film, and I guess the positive side of it taking so long to make, is that we have started to build an audience, thanks to people like you and some other press that we've got, and also some Indiegogo crowdfunding campaigns that we've done. And so I've started to hear from people all over the world, and really enthusiastic response from people who enjoy lesbian cinema. So I'm interested in making, movies and making work for an audience. And so now that I've started to build up this audience, I do feel like I would like to make something else for them. We've kind of talked, the cast and the collaborators on the project, if we started joking, I think maybe on the first day of filming, about the sequel to Liberty's Secret. But actually, I am thinking about that. We all through the shooting, we shot over 25 days, I think, and we were kind of batting around different ideas for a sequel. Where would the characters be in 5 years, or 10 years? I don't know how long it takes us to get there. Hopefully just 5. So I love these characters. I love Liberty and I love Nikki, and I would like to explore that more. So hopefully the film will be a success. And I don't know how many James Bond movies have they made. Like, I don't know, probably 30. This could be a counterpoint to James Bond. It could be an alternative. So I don't know. Maybe there'll be 20 Liberty Secret movies. Who knows? But definitely, kind of themes of human rights and civil rights are things that interest me a lot. And so whether the next film I make is specifically a lesbian film, I don't know yet. But as you say, part of that will depend on funding and all those kinds of things. But I feel like the core issues that are in the film are things that I have been kind of addressing, as long as I've been making art. The things that are kind of most close to me, and they have to do with human relationships. They have to do with acceptance of other people and their kind of full humanity. They have to do with fairness, equality, and humor and generosity. I think are things that are really important to me. So I hope that whatever film I make next is going to have those elements as well. And I would love to make another film with Jacqueline and Kara in the lead roles. I think it would be really, really fun. So let's see.
And this is the last question, and it comes from one of our members. And she just wanted to find out if anybody from the cast or crew was, from our community was queer.
Yeah, well, the project was a collaboration among a lot of people, and it was queer, straight, transgender, bisexual, all kinds of different orientations working on the project. One of the people that was working on the project with me the longest, our production designer, Laura, she was one of the people that just really, like, even when the chips were down and it looked like it was going to be really hard to make this film, she's like, you gotta make this film. And part of it was, she's a lesbian, she's been with her partner for, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. And as we were developing the film, a lot of things were happening locally where we live in Michigan with constitutional amendment against same-sex marriage. And so she and her partner really got behind this film. They were kind of in the trenches with me. Laura worked incredibly long hours. So we had gay men, we had gay women, we had straight men, we had straight women. And I think that's something that I feel really good about. I feel really, really good about all the different communities that came together to make this film. We had my friends who were jazz musicians in that community. We had the filmmaking community. We had the gay and lesbian community. We had a church community. We had a great progressive church that let us film our big wedding scene. Spoiler alert, it ends with the wedding. They let us film our big wedding scene there, and they were really supportive of the cause. So it felt like a huge civic project, and I feel really great about the film, but I also feel really great about the way it was made, and that so many people got to contribute creatively to it, and that we had so much fun making it. And I hope people enjoy watching it as much as we enjoyed making it, so we can make another one. So, yeah.
I want to thank you sincerely from the bottom of our hearts for taking the time to sit down with us. And, you know, I wish you all the best for the film. And I cannot wait to see it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much, Andy.
Thanks.
If you want, you can, you know, perhaps give us any last thoughts, anything that, you know, you might want to add to this platform.
Okay. Well, I think I mentioned already that one of the things that's really been rewarding about developing this film is kind of coming in contact with people that I didn't know before, both you know, on set in the process of making the film, but also kind of online. I mean, that's how I met UT, and I've gotten communication from a lot of different people and kind of started conversations with them. So I would just invite your viewers, you know, if they're interested in the film and they want to know more about it, to you know, get in contact with me. We have a Facebook page, which is you know, Facebook, and then it's liberty.secret, and that's pretty active. We post a lot of pictures and kind of news about the development of the project. And then we have a website, libertysecret.com, so you can get in touch with me either way. And when the film does come out, I'd love to hear from people and hear what they think, and you know, kind of continue this conversation. And I just thank you so much for you know, your encouragement with the Project T, and for supporting this, and for inviting me to be on your show. Thanks so much.
All right, so thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, let's talk soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.